Hello everyone, this is Nolan with the 307 RPG podcast, and I just want to say thanks to all of our awesome patrons. If you like our show and want to support us, you can find us at patreon.com/The Forge Herald. Thanks everyone, hope you enjoy the show.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the 307 RPG podcast. My name is Patrick and I'm your host, and I'm joined as always by my two co-hosts.
Cody.
And I'm Nolan.
Alright guys, today's episode we're going to be taking a look at Nolan's favorite, the Paladin class. We'll discuss what we think our top 3 stats are. We'll take a look at the top 3 subclasses, top 3 multi-class options, and of course offer some role-playing tips. But before we do that, let's take a look at the news. Alright, so let's start with Dungeons & Dragons news. There is just not a lot going on with D&D right now.
Yeah, got another month before all the big releases like we've talked about.
Yeah,
next month.
Everybody's waiting on Descent. And it seemed like when we got, the Stream of Many Eyes, we got kind of a general idea of the next 2 big books. We got, Waterdeep, and we got Mad Mage,
right?
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll set an overall, an overarching theme of what's next.
They definitely on-topped those 2 books, one on top of the other for sure. I mean, we'll definitely get Saltmarsh news next month too because it releases.
Yeah.
May 21st is when Saltmarsh comes out. That's when it'll be available in stores. Of course, we also have the Acquisition Inc. book coming out June 18th, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, there's your double-up books right there.
There we go.
And, of course, those books are available. I keep saying, of course, and I don't mean to.
It's all good.
Those books are available for pre-order via, I think you can order Acquisition Inc. from the PAX website. Yep. Saltmarsh, you can probably get it from your local game store or other online retailers.
Yeah, the Penny Arcade, you can pre-order it. And if I remember right, at this moment in time, they were giving like a free fancy pin for people that pre-ordered the Inc. book.
Right.
Nice.
And like we said, the new storyline will be released mid-May at the D&D Live event in Los Angeles. That's about it for D&D. Just not a whole lot coming up. I'm sure when they do D&D Live, we're going to find out a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, it's like, 3 weeks away, 4 weeks away? And
roughly.
And then we'll have plenty of news.
Yeah, they will have plenty of news. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Over at Onyx Path, it does look like for the Scarred Lands expansion. Cody, are you familiar with Scarred Lands?
No.
Scarred Lands is kind of neat. It is a rule set that is based on, it can be either Pathfinder or D&D 5e. So it's very interesting. It's based on Greek mythology. It's really kind of a neat...
It was Onyx Path's take at the D20 system.
Sword and sorcery, yeah.
During that time period. So a little bit grittier. The monsters are a little more in kind of the feeling of the vampire thing. They're a little bit darker. Like the carrion hounds are like half dog with like 8 maggots coming out of the face. I mean, it's
wow.
It's just a little more.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
I guess there's a monster that births other monsters into existence at the core of the,
I guess just like a giant
lady bit, and so it's a little more adult themed. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah. The theory is about 150 years ago.
It's the mother of monsters?
Yeah.
Yes.
Pun intended. So about 150 years ago, 200 years ago, the war with the gods and the Titans happened. And so it's still very fresh, and basically the world is a wasteland to some extent, because the Titans would like literally just walk through, and they're above the clouds just stepping on cities. They didn't care. They didn't worry about it.
And as a result, you have this land that is scarred.
Yeah. And so at this time period, it's still fresh for some of the long-lived races. They either fought in it or are part of it. Whereas with like the humans and stuff, it was just a few generations ago. The deities are actively involved. So actually saying, yell in Tempest before charging into battle, you could get some favor from the war god for your next attack or abilities.
Oh, cool.
A lot more monster-based races than I anticipated looking at it. It's got humans and elves, no half-elves, dwarves. It has
the Manticora, which are very much like the Tabaxi.
Yep.
Like I said, they are specifically lion and human. You have the Iron Bread,
which is horse and human, not centaur, but like unibody.
Yeah, like you have horse head and horse hooves, but from like the
like
shins
a Minotaur,
up
right?
to the shoulders is all human.
It'd be a Minotaur
or
whatever.
Very similar, yeah.
There's a Slytherin,
which are rat folk.
There's a
Slytherin.
Yeah, I know. And understand, it came out, for everybody who's listening, it came out before Harry Potter.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
So
it has the rat people. It's got snake people as well. And then it gets really specific into like different tomes. Like they're saying like, well, none of the sorcerers actually fit because they're not really a lot of dragons or stuff like that. So they came up with their own versions of the different classes. There's like a barbarian tribe that's the tail fighter, and prerequisite is you have a tail. So like your tail can actually wield a weapon, and that's part of the class features.
Oh, that's cool.
And then there's one that's like a war shaman that gets minor spell casting on it. And so each one has its own thing. It's kind of a combination of 5th edition and 2nd edition, or Pathfinder 2.0 to try and bring those in line.
Right.
Lots and lots of feats. Magic is very much
there are consequences for using magic.
Your body heats up, and so you don't wear armor while you cast spells because you'll cook yourself alive by baking it.
Or your body
cold.
radiates light, and everybody sees you, and it's like, hey, look, there's the caster, kill him.
Right.
It's pretty interesting, but again, a lot more gritty, a lot more feats. You can be a bite master, and if you have the maw or whatever, it increases the damage. It has the prestigious classes. Like there's a druid that's called like a incarnate, and you get human forms based upon your past lives, so you could wild shape into a giant if you're an old soul or something like that. And tattoo magic, which was very cool. I don't know, there was a lot of really neat things that had a good flair for 3.5 and bringing forth the 5th
so what they've
edition,
done is they've made it so where you can play Scarred Lands in either Pathfinder or D&D 5e, and coming up very soon, they don't have a release date for it yet, and it'll be for the 5th edition rules, is the new creature collection. Again, we don't have an exact date. Other than that, I mean, I know there was some other stuff that Onyx Path has talked about when it comes to Scarred Lands. They recently did a deep dive into there with a podcast for Scarred Lands. It's really quite fascinating. If you're listening to this and you haven't checked out Scarred Lands, I would recommend it. You know, just as a, hey, here's D&D, but it's a little bit grittier and a little bit.
One is
I love grittier
97
stuff,
is I think when it came out. Did you ever read Brotherhood of the Griffins? Richard and Briars or something like that. He did a lot of stuff with the Saz Tam. He wrote the Dead God trilogy, which was originally based in Scarred Lands. And I don't know. I'll pick that up and check it out. I'll have a little review for that next time. But so, I mean, it worked on getting popular and never really did, and it seems to be cycling around. We're starting to hear a lot more buzz about it. They did a little Twitch stream last Saturday. I think I accidentally caught it. So some of the developers and stuff are playing and trying to get it on. And again, I think when you see these downtimes in D&D, when people are waiting for stuff, or we're tired of being 1 through 12 or 1 through 5, you know, this opens up a new door to some old school.
Or we just need something different than Forgotten Realms.
Yep. It got me pretty excited about it. I liked, you know, one of the prestigious classes with the Adamantian Champion. And the Paladins are orders of mithril, silver, gold, and those are the different things. Well, this one here, you go on a quest, and basically level 1 is you forge a weapon in the image of your deity, which is a longsword who blesses these. And basically, it's 5 levels of prestigious class to give you a Holy Avenger. So, like level 1, you can't. Like level 1, you can't be disarmed. Level 2, you start to get some Paladin spells, and it is a +2 longsword. Level 3, it starts to emanate light. And then eventually at 5th level, it does 2d8 radiant damage to unholy and stuff. So instead of just giving you a magical weapon, they built it into the class of you have to do quests or whatever. And it's kind of a hero's tale of, well, you have to do for the Order of Mithril Paladins, they send you on a quest, and once you receive their blessing, and in order to become one of these, you have to get a vision or a visit from Hermes saying the god is after you to go do this. You were chosen as our champion. And so seeing just some of those interactions of the deities, I don't know. It was cool. It got me excited. So I've been reading about it.
I was trying to read more about it when I was at the Magic pre-release this weekend, but apparently when you have 36 planeswalkers, and I said it causes all sorts of judge calls. So I was very busy.
Lots of new stuff to learn or relearn or discover.
Other things from Onyx Path, there's, of course, you know, we're in between anything coming out. I know there's supposed to be a new Vampire the Masquerade book coming out this summer for London Burning. There's not much else, so that means there's really nothing new for World of Darkness. Let's look over at Kickstarter. Cody, anything cool on Kickstarter right now?
Yeah, there's a couple of cool things on Kickstarter. One has been going for a little while here. It's for all of you people that love that dark Lovecraftian shenanigans. Evil Hat Productions has released a book of Fate called Fate of Cthulhu.
Oh, nice.
So there is a Fate Cthulhu game. that has been already funded. Looks like it's got about 21 days left on it. So that should be fun.
Sure.
If you're looking for something 3.5-esque, there's an interesting, of course, non-sponsored book called Odyssey of the Dragon Lords. It's for 5th edition, and it is it's an epic level adventure book that is done actually by one of the designers of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 and KOTOR.
Nice.
So that could be, and that's from Arcanum Worlds is the company that's doing that one. So both of them seem, looking at the Kickstarters, of course, Evil Hat does good stuff, but the Odyssey of the Dragon Lords looks very presentable. It's one of the things I look at, is looking into the page and seeing what's going on there. And both are actually already funded. Odyssey has, I believe, about 2 weeks left. Yeah, 16 days left. And I mean, both of them are doing very well. Odyssey is almost at $250,000 already. So
wow.
Yeah.
Good for them.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Always good to see those non-licensed books really make it. So that's good. Good.
Other Kickstarter news, we of course have the Vampire the Masquerade Heritage board game, which is the legacy board game. This is down to about 12 hours. By the time this gets posted, we're probably looking at about 10 hours. This is fully funded. Their goal was $36,000. They're at $427,000. So I think they exceeded their goal.
Good.
There's only 2 levels, and this is done by Nice Game. I know Cody mentioned the publishing. This is by Nice Game Publishing. They only have like 3 different ways to pledge, and it looks like if you're gonna do it, if you really want the best value, that $100 is where it's gonna be. I'm still on the fence about, I really want to do this one, but it's
Back and forth.
I know.
Running out of time.
I know. I'm down to the end here.
Down to the wire.
Okay, so that's what we got in Kickstarter. All right. Here we go. The moment Nolan's been waiting for.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know when we play this up, it always, when we first started playing D&D again, Nolan immediately jumped into Paladin, and we discovered quickly that Paladins don't work too well in Ravenloft.
I think Nolan didn't work too well in Ravenloft for his first time back.
That could be. I don't think any of us worked too well in Ravenloft for our first time back.
I mean, Ravenloft in itself is a dark campaign,
I love Ravenloft.
and being the one light in the darkness
Yeah.
gets taxing, especially when you're with a group of murder hobos.
Well, and I think, I also played it as what I thought a paladin should be versus actually just being, I don't know, a paladin.
Right.
Well, and let's face it, we were all so green and trying to get back into D&D that, we've, as we said before, we should probably go back and play that one. Anyway, let's talk about these knights in shining armor, and we're going to break these down as we always do. We're going to talk about the different classes, or the different stats, what we think are the most important, the subclasses, give some role-playing tips, and also some multi-class options. But before we do that, Nolan, tell us about the Paladin.
You know, I think we kind of talked about it a little bit. Some of the origins of Paladin is that cleric who needed to be a little bit more physical. The guys who protected the clerics or eventually just were, maybe a little bit less studious and a little bit better at thumping on things. So now, over the generations and the years and stuff like that, the Paladin has kind of come into its own. It used to be kind of a divine example or an enforcer of the gods. In 5th edition now, it is more about your oath or your purpose or your passion. It really has taken on almost a Star Wars-esque what fuels you going forward type passion almost. It reminds me of that there of you are so passionate, you're so fueled by this that you start to develop divine energy, divine powers. You're looked on favorably through your convictions. And I think that's a really neat play style. When I played monks in 3.5, they had to be lawful because they held to the code of their monastery. And for me, I always like that idea of this is what I believe to be true, and damn what you say because I know it in my heart of hearts. And to me, that's what the Paladin is of a person that's just so self-resolved, and whether it's arrogant or refusal, I mean, it's enough to let them smite evil and bring about change, then it must be pretty powerful. So
Right.
We talked about a little bit about primary, secondary, tertiary stats, and it is a difficult one. It is one of those classes that needs a little bit of everything, and a lot of that little bit of everything depends on what you want your paladin to be.
I would say it's the one class that can play multiple roles well. So building appropriately to what you want to play has a big key in it.
Well, and if you look at like as a baseline, you know, it's a plate class, can be or not. You know, that's kind of awkward. But when it's kind of designed in that tank-esque high AC role, if you look at the fighter and the barbarian, strength, con, some dex, and you forget the dump stat. You know, forget intelligence, forget wisdom. I'm a big meat shield. Here you have to have charisma. Now, you still want to be a tank, you still want high con, you still want to wear plate mail, you need at least 15 here. And then they go ahead and they throw a little bit of charisma in for your spell casting. Well, we've talked about that a little bit, is you can get completely around charisma and just have, you know, Shield of Faith or Armor of Faith. You can cast Bless. You can just be a Smite Knight. And then at 6th level, just to reaffirm the fact that you are a moron for dumping charisma, like all other classes, they go and give you proficiency to saves based upon your charisma to your party. And so now all of a sudden you're like, wow, that's not really a dump stat anymore. So it is a difficult class to be. You can really focus if you want to be a tank. Primary is going to be con, then probably some plate mail, so you need to make sure you're there. And then charisma is, you know, there. If you want to be more of a healer and a caster, charisma is your saving throws. It's got to be there. You could build a dex knight, but then you still have to have at least a 13 strength in it to be able to multi-class out. So some planning goes into it. But again, kind of like the monk, you need 3 good stats: con, dex, wisdom. Here, strength, con, dexterity is always good. Wisdom if you don't want to get held. Forget intelligence. We're not listening to anybody else's horse crap. I don't got time to learn. I know what I know. And then charisma.
So we tried to break this down in the show notes so everybody can see it as, you know, our primary stat, our secondary stat, and as Nolan said, our tertiary stat. And as we were going through this, we were like, well, primary stats depends on what kind of paladin you are. So it's either charisma, strength, or con. Secondary stat depends on what kind of paladin you are. And even the third stat, again, it depends on what type of paladin you are. So it seems like we're being lazy when you look at the show notes. We're not. It just, these are the 3 most important stats, and where they're going to fall is based on the type of paladin that you're playing.
What's important to you? Exactly. We could sit at this table and each one of us could say, well, you know, for me, maybe it's charisma, because charisma saving throws to my allies is more important, where you're like, well, I want to smash things, so strength is most important, or you want to be a tank and con is. So again,
and I think
what you bring the paladin to be for you.
And I think we see that more with the paladin than we do with like the monk, where you mentioned the monk, where those stats are pretty much more or less locked in, because no matter what subclass you take or route you take, those are the best way to put those. Where this one, they're truthfully all the best. Just depends on which direction you want to go with it,
or what stage of your career you are, or again, what the paladin means to you.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, so when you guys look at this and you listen to this, you know, we're not being lazy. It's just, it's going to depend on what you want to do.
It's the easiest and most difficult answer.
Yeah, no kidding.
The more I think about it, I don't think there's another one that we do this with. I mean, maybe the fighter, when you talk about dex versus strength fighter.
Well, and again, I think it's so specific on it that a fighter says strength or dex must be at 13 to get out of, you know, and I think that's what we're seeing. You know, and I think the other thing on it is it's because the charisma saving throws to the team impacts the team, whereas the monk, if I have a low wisdom save, I'm only hurting myself, whereas the paladin, like, you're actually you cannot do anything and just stand within 10 feet of people and your team is better. Right. I mean, with charisma saving throws.
Well, and then your DC too, because you are a spellcaster at some point.
Or, you know, your heals are not as strong. Or, you know, I mean, you've got other ways of doing it. You can get around it. But for me, when that charisma saving throw to the party came in, I was like, well, that's
big.
Even an extra 2 or 3. I mean, it counts for death saving throws. If you're halfway there because the paladin's got a 20 charisma, you need to roll a 5 or better on it. You know, you're going to be happy he's around. Or she. Sorry. But yeah, it's just, again, what becomes more important to you as the game goes on. It's tough.
And that whole what becomes more important to you, or build the paladin, how you, in your vision, really goes into subclasses as well. So we're going to talk specifically about the 3, what we consider be the best for each, for tank, for DPS, and for healing. And we're going to start with tank-based paladin. Now, before the show, we were discussing 2 different oaths. In this case, what Nolan and I had originally talked about was Oath of Crown. And understand, I deferred to Nolan on this one because I don't know paladins worth a shit. So I was kind of deferring to him. But Cody brought up the
Oath of Redemption
too. So why don't we real quick just discuss those Pros and
I think-
cons, if you will, of those two?
I think Crown is probably the more often choice, the easier choice, and like we talked about in the show notes, Redemption is kind of that newer off of the norm Paladin, where I believe you get do we still get a bonus for not wearing armor?
I think they dropped that because
Did they drop it?
It became so easy to multi-class
Okay.
and be better at just about everything with a 2-level dip, more so than it already is good for, I guess.
Right.
And I think the big thing on it too is we've seen it again, depending on your definition of tanking, of Oath of Redemption is very good at alleviating damage from allies by absorbing it, whereas a Crown is, in my opinion, very good at being able to lock down enemies,
Crowd control.
Their AoE taunt, if you will, for a lack of a better term, since there isn't really anything, of not letting things escape 30 feet of you, picking up Spirit Guardians for being in the middle of stuff.
So good.
Yeah, and so in my mind, it's one of those things of he's surrounded by enemies getting wailed on, who comes out, and like you were saying, in a big bad evil one-on-one thing, okay, we've seen that with like the Ancestral Guardian or whatever. One punch reduced down to nothing on the guy that's about to die or whatever is just as effective of tanking as the Paladin getting punched in the face anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely say that the Crown is the preferred choice, just because, like you said,
I think it is a little underrated for that, and again, because some of the other ones are more popular and stronger.
Well, and I think like when we look at D&D, most of the time it's not a 1-on-5 fight. You're not going to walk in and fight a big bad boss. Usually you're fighting 14 goblins or 5 goblins or 10 goblins or 3 giants, or so I definitely see that being the preferred choice, because you're going to run into that situation a hell of a lot more.
Absolutely.
The AoE taunt, is the AoE taunt one of their divinity, so you got to be careful there, because you only get so many of those.
Right.
So that is the one downfall to that whole thing, is those divinities, you have to kind of keep them tight and play them tight to your chest, because
I think that's the big thing with Paladin in general is they can be just about anything, but they lack resources.
Right.
More so than a lot of classes.
Although they do get that really awesome lay on hands resource, which, oh my god.
Looking at the channel divinities for Oath of Crown, I'm not seeing at all where it says you can only do this during a short or long rest. It just says you can do this as a bonus action.
So the channel divinity,
You have to. Are you looking in the oath part? You have to go up to the main part.
the channel divinity part.
Yeah.
You're just making this more difficult. Forget this. I quit.
Because they each have the one channel divinity that all of them get, and then they get some special ones, right?
Different.
Or is that clerics?
Yep.
That's clerics.
So they get the Turn the Tide as well. So you have a choice between healing or lockdown of nothing can leave 30 feet of your space.
Yeah, short or long rest. Use your channel divinity again. Okay.
And I think how often is some of that stuff going to work? You don't know. And for me, playing a paladin, stuff like that, it's tough to. The best condition that you can put on a mob these days is dead.
Mm.
And so now we're smiting stuff to kill it faster.
Right.
And I when I play my paladin and stuff like that, I didn't see him as that. I didn't ever play that role. I always felt guilty wasting spell slots on that. And then watching Gad being hyper efficient and just making things dead.
Right.
I would be protective and limit that damage over 3 rounds, and rounds are dead in a round. And it's like, wow, that's definitely a lot more efficient way to go about things. I'm seeing it now. So
I think that's a beautiful segue into our
into the DPS one.
DPS paladin.
So, as far as I can tell, what do we say? Oath of Vengeance, right?
yeah. So Oath of Vengeance is, I guess, how they gets described the most is Batman, which to me it seems a lot more violent. I would say Arthas burning the village or burning the town. If I can save the world by killing a few hundred people, so be it. Job well done. And it gives you that, when we originally talked about Paladin and stuff like that, it was this lawful, I am here in the open to challenge you to. And it's like, dude, we're trying to ambush somebody. Go hide.
Would you shut up?
Was it the big dude from Dragonlance or whatever? Was very much that knight with the oaths. This one here is more of a chaotic one. Just as long as whatever you're doing goes towards getting what you've done. Yep. And very often that oath can be, they talk about it as Sometimes your oath is before God and country. Sometimes your oath is between you and the gods. Sometimes it's surrounded to the face spirits and the nature. And sometimes it's surrounded by the bodies of your loved ones, and the only thing that can hear your oath is the dead. And so it's, a fire dragon came through and burned your town or whatever, and you've just sworn to kill that dragon. Any means necessary. So part of the DPS is the big bad evil guy. Part of your channel divinity is you gain advantage on all attacks against a target that's a vow of
Enmity.
Yeah, vow of enmity. And you get advantage on all attacks for a minute, which again, if we're talking DPS, you probably got a great sword. You're looking at smites. You're looking at hitting. You're also looking at great weapon master. So the opportunity to just unload on one target.
We're talking about the class that gets to go, I did crit. I get to add a whole bunch of dice now.
I think I'll save that fifth level.
Giving yourself advantage, for a minute is a beautiful thing.
Just kind of looking over some of this stuff, what they get. Let's see, their penultimate ability is the Avenging Angel. And I'm just going to read this real quick. At 20th level, you can assume the form of an angelic avenger. Mm-hmm. Using your action, you undergo a transformation for 1 hour. You gain the following benefits. Wings sprout from your back and grant you this flying speed of 60 feet. You emanate an aura of menace in a 30-foot radius. The first time an enemy creature enters the aura or starts its turn during the battle, that creature must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or become frightened of you for 1 minute or until it takes any damage. Attack rolls against the frightened creature have advantage.
Get some rep paladin wings on crack.
Yeah, it's like, woohoo, we're kicking
I'm so glad Gad is...
It lets them start teleporting towards enemies that move away. Like whenever something tries to run, they can use their reaction to move half their speed to cut them off.
Relentless Avenger.
It is very much that, hunter, and even their spell list, they get Hunter's Mark early, which is again more damage. They get Hold Person, which can set up more damage. They eventually get Haste, which is more damage. When I think about building, like I played a Paladin sorcerer, and I can see all the shenanigans they did. If I had to do it again, I'd probably just play Pure Vengeance, just from the standpoint of I played to get haste a little bit faster. All these little things. 11th level, every hit is so full of conviction that it starts doing a little more damage. And this here now you got haste. One of the few reasons I could see 2-weapon fighting. I mean, you don't even get it, as far as a fighting style, but an extra 1d8 per hit. I mean, it adds up.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So now let's go to the last one, which of course is the spellcasting paladin. And I think you told me Oath of Conquest was the one you were thinking was the good one here.
For me, so much of what they are is based on saving throws and fear, and they have many ways to make things frightened of them. If they are frightened of them, they start to take damage, and that's where that charisma is going to come in pretty big. They also get Spirit Weapon. They get Armor of Agatha from the Warlock. So much of that is that condition-based setup where you need those high spell DCs. Now, from a not necessarily... I don't know if there is a healer paladin. Like you said, they all get that lay on hands. And so having a caster paladin, this is kind of where I come to the conclusion on it, is just you need high spell saving throws. Yeah. And none of the other ones, all the other ones you can get around it. Haste, you don't need a high charisma. Hunter's Mark, you don't need a high charisma. Spirit Guardians, you don't need a high charisma. Making something frightened of you, they need to fail your save.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think Conquest is a fantastic one outside of just Spirit Weapon early, that armor early. I mean, that's got to be a mean, frightening tank with some damage output.
So you get Arms of Agathis at 3rd level. You get Spirit Weapon at 5th level.
Yep, 1st level spell, 2nd level spell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's...
So now all of a sudden you got something to do with your bonus action.
And Spirit Weapon has got to be... It's between Spirit Weapons and Spirit Guardians. Those are probably my 2 favorite clerics.
And the best thing about Spirit Weapons is it's not concentration, so you can rock both.
Boom, and let it go. And exactly. And then all of a sudden your Spirit Guardians are... Oh, man. Yeah, no. That was one of my favorite things when I was playing my cleric. Mm-hmm. Is to have both of those things going at the same time. It's just a lot
I think Spirit Guardians might be the best spell.
Spirit Guardians is amazing.
I mean, at least in tier 1, maybe possibly tier 2. I mean, up until we start getting to like Wish and Meteor Storms and that kind of stuff. But Spirit Guardians is just... You pick who it hits. It slows mobs down. They take damage for being in it. It's everything you want from the Paladin as far as trying to slow things down from getting to the people that are blowing stuff up.
Absolutely. Okay, so just to recap on the subclasses real quick. So when it comes to tank, Oath of Crown is your good crowd controlling tank. If you're thinking more one-on-one, you might look at Oath of Redemption. When it comes to DPS, Oath of Vengeance, that's your big swings, gonna crit like crazy and blow things up.
It gives you the most opportunity for single target. Kill the bad guy now.
And then for the casting ability, we're looking at Oath of Conquest.
Yeah. And again, we've had the conversation too of if you take out all of the Paladin subclasses, it's still a good class.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Lay on hands, resistance to diseases, cure poisons. You get even the base cleric spells that you get are great. It gets fine steed. You get a glorious mount of awesomeness.
Aura of vitality, eventually.
Is that actually the name of this spell? The Glorious Mount of Awesomeness?
You must say that for it to come to you. Yes. Aura of Vitality is good. Crusader's Mantle is good. Charisma to Saves is good. The 7th level ability for Ancient's Paladin, which we didn't talk about. Resistance to Magic for your allies.
I was going to bring that up because it's one class, or the one subclass we didn't mention that I see played more often than not is the Green Knight, the Oath of Ancient. So it's kind of interesting.
The tough thing on it, and I think where a lot of people will run into issues is if you look at multi-classing, which I'm going to segue without y'all, the most popular one is the Paladin Sorcerer. Because Paladin lacks resources, the Sorcerer gives resources. You both use Charisma for casting. Well, when the original books came out, a Vengeance Paladin for thumping down damage, Dragon Sorcerer to adding to that damage. Well, at 14th level, you get wings for free. You don't have to wait till 20th level. You get it at 14. So it kind of became that natural. 614 is kind of the end of the casters. That's their capstone, right? Most of the casters get something at 14, and that's where it is. So that's kind of the natural split. 6 is a perfectly fine stopping point for Paladins. It gives you more options through subclasses, and you really got to want that 7th level ability to go 713 to give up wings for this. Again, depends on how long the campaign's going to go. Depends on what you want to do. Smite more spells. And I enjoyed it. I did a Divine Soul because I wanted to be, because there is no great healer Paladin, and I wanted to have that. Scarred Lands has a whole order based upon the spell list being heals, and I feel like I wish Paladins could be just a little bit more. I wish I could play a Holy Paladin, from like WoW or something like that. Give you an opportunity, maybe if you could transfer, your Lay on Hands without touching, or some flavor there. But anyway.
And we've brought up Capstone about 3 or 4 times in this one, and I feel like we haven't mentioned that Paladin Capstones across the board are probably some of the best.
17, 18, 19 are all really good because all of a sudden your 10-foot aura goes to 30 feet for your charisma saves. And then, you get your final feat, and then, your 20th level, your avatar, you're popping your ret wings, whatever you want to do for a WoW turn.
You have rage immunities for some classes.
Makes you a badass for an hour, and it's a long-lasting thing. So, once a day for that big fight, you're good to go. And again, we don't see it a lot, at that point. Hey, you popped wings and you're an avatar, and the wizard over here is wishing you were, never born or whatever. So, I mean, when you start getting into that stuff, it's just like it's no man's land for me at this point. So, when you're looking at these small scales, with multi-classing, it's really a hard class to multi-class because, like you said, 6 is good, 7 is good, 11 is good.
But when it comes to multi-classing, I mean, I think it's pretty common knowledge that the Sorkadin, the Sorcerer Paladin, is I think the biggest potential for doing damage.
It's one of 2 schools. It's either the Paladin Warlock, so you get smites on short rests, so they recharge faster. Okay. So depending on your game, if you do one big fight a day, the Sorcerer is going to win. If you play by the 2 short rests and 1 long rest, your Sorcerer or your Paladin Warlock is going to get a little bit better. The Warlock adding charisma to weapons basically made strength a dump stat, made dex a dump stat, and you just need charisma because they can use charisma there. So then you need a 15 to wear plate mail. Nobody cares about dexterity. You just focus on con. You focus on charisma. It's streamlined and simplified to a point that you can't build a Gish now without saying, well, did you think about Warlock 1? Because then you get charisma to your cast stat. You can use that weapon with your charisma.
Jeez.
You have 118.
And isn't the penultimate the Sorlakadin?
Yeah.
It's kind of ridiculous, but it is.
One of those ones of almost everyone going to stop at 6 charisma to saving throws. Probably 1 level of Warlock at least, maybe 2, maybe 3, but then you start pushing into resources.
Right.
And again, you have to be playing the game like, oh, I got this really awesome thing. I got 6 levels of this. I got 3 levels of this. And then I need 5 levels of sorcerer. Like, dude, we're level 15 and we're about to wrap up the story and you just became badass. I would know that because I hit level 11 with my circuiter and you just finally got 3rd level spells.
Right.
And that's where I was saying, you know, I would go back and I'd probably just play a Vengeance.
I did that with Wrigley too.
Yeah.
When I did the monk and then I jumped into cleric, like, yeah, it hurts when you're stretching into a caster class late because you are very behind the curve on spells.
What you're getting into. And again, when you're dealing with a paladin and stuff like that, for me it was, okay, I picked up first level here. That gives me 2 extra spells that I can smite with. That's how I got to think about it. And then, you know, even just a 2-level dip, I'm having a hard time not playing a Paladin 2 Blade Singer 18 because you get all these spells as a wizard, and then the Blade Singer eventually falls off on damage. Well, now I can just convert all those 2nd level spells that I'm not using into an extra 3d8 smite. It instantly gets better. You get a fighting style. You get a little small hit pool of lay on hands. You got something 2 levels into a Hexblade. Now all of a sudden you got smites. You know, if I were going to do it, and it's a weird thing. You know, come with defeat allows you to burn spells for smites.
Which might be the best heal in the game, by the way. I still think it's got to be close.
Outside the fact that you have to touch somebody.
Yeah, I mean, there quite a few of. I mean, at least cure wounds we got to touch anyway.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. And again, healing
But-
is the healing word to me is just
Well,
whack-a-mole.
well,
And
that's.
if they got healing
I mean-
word, then I would be completely content.
And that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
And you're gonna end up. Usually with a paladin, if you're running high level, you're going to end up with more slots with your lay on hands doing 1 hit point.
Yeah, if you're willing to reach out and use an action to hit somebody.
Yeah.
And again, what's better off, getting this guy up for 1 hit point, or you going and spending a 5th level spell and smiting for 5d8, or you know. So again, it has some of those consequences with it as far as what should you be doing,
Right.
because you can be totally selfish and smite and help the party
Right.
just by being around. You can be all out healer and help the party. You can be all out tank and help. I mean, it's
Right.
probably one of the best classes in the game. Like it, hate it, whatever. If you can find a way to stomach people looking at you, oh, you're playing a paladin, and getting over that. Well, yeah, no, I'm playing Batman paladin. Like, I will burn down this village if I think it's a missile strike to kill one guy. What, the world's a better place.
Yeah,
We
that
killed
dude's
100
dead.
and we saved 1 million. Like,
Mhm.
good job. We did it, team, and you're around high-fiving people, chugging beers like a crazy American bomber or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's one of those
No, yeah.
hoorah, go team. I mean, it doesn't matter. And so, it is. It's very. I wouldn't say well balanced. I wouldn't say well thought out. I think some of the other classes should be brought up to the paladin level. But if you break it down and you look at a straight vengeance paladin, you give a paladin hunter's mark for the first few levels, and they do an extra d6 per hit. Awesome. Oh, next level, you got a whole person. Now they're critting on their smites. Awesome. Oh, now they got haste, so they got an extra attack now to smite with. Awesome. You know, it's just,
Wow.
It's one of those. Wow.
Wow.
I-
Holy shit, that's some numbers.
I like it. I think it's a great class. It's hard for me not to enjoy playing one, and I think it is because I don't. It's not necessarily fun to sit back and be just the healer. It's one of those days of like, I'm sick of you guys' shit going up and down. Hold my beer, and you walk up and you drop a 5d8 smite, weapon master plus 10, and it's got to be one of the first classes that can break 100 damage. I mean, and so it's one of those things of giving your healer, who's also your tank, also that kind of Nova ability. Well, it's 10 o'clock at night, and I got ambushed, and I just finished my watch. I'm just going to kill these things fast and go back to nap.
Well, and that's the thing too, is it's 100 damage and it's single target damage.
Mhm.
Like, that's the crazy thing about it, where you're looking at casters doing it with AoE spells. No, you're just one off on somebody annihilating a health pool.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even when you look at high level CR stuff, I mean, high dragons are only what, 400 or 500 hit points? And if you're dumping,
Start 2-shot.
Yeah.
Your big baddie bot.
Yeah.
And from a
Yeah.
DM standpoint or whatever, be mindful of.
Absolutely. So, prime example
Throw
is
'em, give them ads.
in our homebrew campaign, I had you guys fighting a beholder,
Mhm.
and you were playing your Sorkinen, and the very first hit was like 70 plus damage.
Yeah,
And I
I
remember looking at my creature going, "Oh shit!"
right?
I think
And-
I only got 1 hit off on it, and I was just like, I can't get to him. He's flying around.
Yeah,
whatever,
and
I
at that
can't
well,
fight
and
him.
like you even like did some frickin' parkour shit and ran up a thing to get to him.
I took like 3 steps and a misty step to fall on top of him just to get there, and then next thing I know I got paralyzed. But it was one of those things of like it altered the scale of how the fight was going.
It did.
Instantly.
It did, and as the DM, I immediately had to begin focusing on you. Otherwise, this fight was going to be over.
And again, that's a good job as a tank. Sometimes
Oh yeah,
trying to kill
absolutely.
something fast, I am the biggest threat in the room. No, that's gonna get I didn't watch the rest of the fight.
Well, and
I got a 70 point hit.
And since we're giving tips to DMs and whatnot on this one, I feel like that's something you see with a lot of high-end creatures in D&D is almost all of them have a flight ability.
Yeah,
Because barbarians, because paladins, because even monks, I mean, all of these guys are on the ground and deal high amounts of damage very quickly and are very scary.
And if they're going to use the rules to their favor, which they should, and they start misty stepping and stuff, and all of a sudden, I'm flying. Oh, there's a shadow flying across its back. Pop. Bam!
Yep.
And that's what happened. I had you and the monk both just wailing away on my poor beholder.
No, again, I'm totally biased with it. I love the idea about it. And when I play games, when I play this, I come from a standpoint of my character as a hero. And what better way than to I play Dragon Age and I make the lawful good decisions. My first Sith, like I just want to see what it's like to be the good guy.
Then he turns evil.
Well, when you play through again or whatever. My next guy that I have in mind is a Conquest Paladin 6, because that's the sweet spot. You get spirit weapons, you get the Armor of Agatha, which gives you the temporary hit points. What's the best way to do that is to upcast it. Let's throw in some Whisper Bard. Now all of a sudden we've got Whisper Bard. Well, what do you get with that? You get Psychic Smite damage that doesn't require Finesse weapons, so I can do it with my two-hander. Now we're talking about, on a critical, I drop a 5d8 Smite, which now is a 10d8 Smite. I drop a 5d6 Sneak Attack Psychic Blade, which is now 10d6. Hold on, let me get my Great Weapon Master in there. It's the spot.
Anybody have a calculator?
Right.
That's all I need from it. It's a one-shot. I get a crit on it. I'm done. I'm good with them. But, again, a Conquest Paladin pushes a little bit of I will do anything to make the world in my image, which is a very... you start pushing Darth Vader, you start pushing Palpatine or whatever. They're versions of Paladins that are so in belief in my way is the right way. Screw everything else.
Right.
Whisper Bard is very much the spy, Mask of Many Faces style, can change what it looks like. Throw them together, and you've got the perfect person that is just a blatant spy for his king, country, whatever. You got Xerxes or whatever on the far side coming in, and I'm here just scouting. And I've got a big enough man dongle to swing my stick, and you want to get in my way, I will kill you. I will threaten you.
Man dongle.
Yeah, we're trying to be
PC.
Black Rooster.
Black Rooster.
No, but it is just one of those things of
Coco Vaughn.
you want to threaten me face to face. I will drop a Psychic Smite on you, and you're dead, and then I will take your image and become you, and I will go figure out what I need to without you.
And of course, if you want to play that, I remember during AD&D 2nd edition, my friend and I had created, because he wanted to play an evil character. He was so we had the main party, and then that he was DMing, and then I was DMing just for him because we were building up the big bad evil guy that the main party was going to fight eventually. So we created what we called the anti-paladin. Mm-hmm. Now you can play that now as a Oathbreaker Paladin.
Yep. They had the Fallen Paladin in the past. They've had the Oathbreaker in this edition. The DMG. Also a very strong build.
Yeah, very strong build.
And I think that is one of those things that I've, Zach and I, who plays in our other games as well, we talk about like how all wizards eventually become corrupt and they want to be liches, and that's usually almost all big bad evil guys are wizards or whatever. A Fallen Paladin is a very scary big bad evil
Lord
guy.
Soth.
Because if they've got enough belief and conviction in what they're doing is right to manifest it into magic, imagine what happens if they're on the wrong side of, they get so far right into the light that it's to the point of, I'm done saving you people. If you can't get along with what's right, then I will make you get along with what's right. I am it's the robot thing, right? You are destroying this world, so we're going to take control so you can no longer destroy it. And it's to a point of where you're not wrong, but you're doing it the wrong way. But are you? Like, you know what I mean?
It's Thanos, the very Thanos.
Yeah, Thanos is a very beautiful paladin.
Mm-hmm.
I am right in all the wrong ways, and I don't care because you can't see it because you're blinded by small scale, not big picture.
Yep.
And that's a scary dude because
they're
not wrong.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a cool way to go about your Google Doc.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, we have ran the course of our time here. So next week we will be talking about Ranger.
You got a couple right in a row. I think that's one of the ones that I haven't played. Like I played a Paladin once in 3.5, and I did the Holy Gun Paladin.
Whatever.
I want to rock the Drunken Druid.
The Drunken Druid.
Yeah, like ale, it all comes from nature, baby. Like that, yeah. Like that would be a thing. Maybe even make it a doodad,
There you go.
Doodad.
a dwarf druid.
Do a
Nice.
barbarian spore. So you get the temporary hit points. Each punch is with poison in, and you get resistance, so your temporary hit points last longer. So totem
That'd be cool.
spore druid. All right.
All right, guys. So that is our show for tonight. And as always, we'd like to let everybody know how they can find us. And of course, if you like our show and you want to hear any of this stuff put into play, you can always check out our actual plays. We have a D&D group that is ran by Cody and a Vampire the Masquerade group that my dog is going to jump up and suddenly be a pain in the ass.
He's laying down.
We have a D&D group that is ran by Cody. Both Nolan and myself play in that group. Nolan is playing a barbarian for now, and I'm playing a gunslinger
For now.
for now.
Perfect.
There will be some changes. Or you can also listen to our Vampire the Masquerade, where I'm the storyteller and Nolan is playing a Lasombra, and Cody is playing a Ravnos. And it is based in the Dark Ages, and it's actually the Giovanni Chronicles. So, otherwise, if people would like to get a hold of you and ask you some questions, Nolan, how can they find you?
I am on Twitter at nlamers, NLAMERES. I'm also on Instagram at the same, and then also nlamers at gmail.com.
You know, at some point we're gonna have to make me start going first because I have the least now.
I know, he's getting to be bigger than
I
me.
know.
Anytime you
Yeah.
catch up, I'll add another one. You can find me on Hotspots. I don't know what that is. Trademark.
You keep your hotspots. I'm Cody. You can get me on Twitter at AlphaLCD, or you can always drop me an email on my Gmail, alphalcd@gmail.com.
And of course, I'm Patrick, and you can find me at pretty much all these social medias at the Forge Herald, except for Twitter, where you're going to actually have to search at 307RPG, because I discovered I can change that today, and I did.
Start swapping
And
over.
before we log out today, or before we wrap up today, I do want to say, hold on, let me grab this real quick.
While he's saying something, I'm going to quick say we apologize for the technical difficulties today at the end of this podcast. We did notice that Nolan dropped, but you can still hear him through the rest of the
So
mics.
When he starts
Society.
ranting, it's
Yeah.
best that we just unplug his mic.
A couple, when we first started this podcast, we did talk a little bit about a Kickstarter from our friend Elusive Meeple, and their Kickstarter for Slight Games. The name of the game is Snitch, and I gotta say, this just came in. I haven't opened it yet, and I'm looking forward to a chance to sit down and play it. This was possibly one of the fastest Kickstarters I've ever seen. These guys must have had their stuff together, ready to go. It was funded, it was produced, and I think it was just a few months before I had it in hand. So
Nice.
I just wanted to mention that and say, good job, you guys. Good job, Slight Games. You guys did a great job.
Very cool.
Anything else, guys?
Next week, maybe I'll bring in a few of my Reaper Bones
There you
4
go.
miniatures that we can review on the Kickstarter thing.
Oh, shit, I forgot about this. And so if you hung on till the very end, hand me those dice there, Cody.
Nice!
If you hung on till the very end, we are doing a giveaway. Dom, who plays a Paladin in our D&D group, but he plays Gad, has brought it's a random set of dice. There's no cohesion to this set.
It's a misfit
It's
set.
a misfit set, yeah, that he got. I don't know where he got them. He just said, hey, I really enjoy the show. I want to support you guys. Here's a giveaway you can do.
Awesome.
So I have a set of misfits dice, as well as I have a sealed Call of Cthulhu starter set that we're going to give away. So I'll have pictures of these on the webpage so you guys can see them, as well as an announcement on Twitter later. So we have these cool dice from Dom. Thanks, Dom. And our Call of Cthulhu starter set that we're
Sweet.
going to get to as a giveaway. So
Very cool.
anything else, guys?
Wicked sweet.
Cool. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.